Good evening and welcome to the Garfield Heights City School District Special Board Meeting Work Session. Today is Monday, March 10th, 2025. I call the meeting to order. Could I get roll call, Mr. Oko?
Yes. Ms. Cox?
Yes.
Mrs. Daniels?
Yes.
Ms. Thomas? Ms. Morrison?
Here.
Ms. King?
Here. Could I get a motion to adopt the agenda for the Special Board Meeting Work Session?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
That was moved by Mrs. Daniels, and second by Ms. Morrison. Could I get roll call, please?
Mrs. Daniels?
Yes.
Ms. Morrison?
Yes.
Ms. Cox?
Yeah.
Ms. King?
Yes. Could I get a motion to approve the district calendar, or we're having a hearing?
It's the hearing.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we will have a hearing for the next 10 minutes.
10 minutes.
Madam President,
Ms. Daniels?
is there anything that Dr. Reynolds may want to highlight that may be some differences or variances from last calendar? I would say things such as professional development days, how many instructional hours we have, and all that good stuff.
Yes. On this calendar, we noticed that there was an error with one of the days. We were actually missing the day number. And when we made those adjustments, we had the conversation with the union as well. And there was a conversation about the number of days of instruction. And we ended up, I believe we removed it from November. It was our PD day that we ended up removing. Those are the only differences. I believe the missing day was the 27th of October. I think it went straight from 26 to 28, something along those lines. And then we made the adjustment. And in conversation with the union, they agreed, and I believe we're fine now. It was really correction of errors.
Do we know if we have any major variances between like our schedule and like the CPC schedule? Do you guys coordinate at all with the school calendars?
I don't believe we do.
Are there any other questions while we're waiting for any of the public to comment?
I do see where we have, do we normally, what is the first day of school for preschool? Would that be on here, or is normally not on the regular calendar?
It's normally down here.
Okay, because it's more like a program versus part of our school
Yes.
day. Gotcha. But they pretty much share though, like most of our schedule, like,
Pretty much,
Pretty
except that
much.
Fridays are a little different.
yeah.
Their Fridays are a little different, but other than that, they make the adjustment with our adjustments. Even when we're out, they're out, obviously. But no, they follow our schedule too, for the most part, except for those Fridays.
Thank you. Madam President, can I have one more comment? I just want to compliment the list of dates in the middle. I feel like this calendar is a lot more cleaner and easier to understand, and just giving us those lists, you know, like have the dates listed also down the middle. It's just a very nice, clean calendar with not a lot to try to decode. So thank you guys for making the calendar.
I wish that I could take credit for that, but that was teaching and learning and human resources. they worked diligently just to make it a little cleaner, a little easier to read, so there are no questions. And their conversation and collaboration with our union was actually very good. So I want to make sure that we give them a shout out on that. But this was definitely a collaborative effort.
Thank you, guys.
We are in our calendar hearing, so we'll be in the hearing for another 4 minutes.
Dr. Reynolds, what is Teacher Day? It's November 26th. I've never heard that before. I know some people call it PD. Is that a PD or is that a different kind of day? Or
Well, and that was part of the discussion. What date was that? The
November 26th.
26. Because of teachers coming in on particular days, that was a day that was pretty much negotiated with the union in order to, if they served on the other days that were half days, then that day would be out. So that is basically just an indicator for them that we recognize a long-held agreement in the district, just to make sure that that day before Thanksgiving, that they're out.
All right, we'll get back to our agenda. If there's no additional comments. Four point one, tentative agenda review. I do have a question for 19.1, overnight accommodations. Will we be adding the boys' basketball team if they win on Sunday?
Yes, that is our goal, to eventually have that.
You've already approved it.
Yeah.
I
The
talked
board?
to them. Yeah,
Oh, we
they,
did not.
At the beginning of
Mr. Cruz already preemptively put them in.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
He was very confident in our boys basketball team this year. So
Okay.
That's good.
so today.
And then also, can we add an executive session to the end of, Monday's meeting to discuss, personnel, forgot how we worded it before.
Negotiation.
Ne- Negotiations, and we need to continue our discussion on,
I'll put it on the I'll set it up in the agenda, and then if you review it, and then
okay.
discuss that.
With any other questions or comments on the tentative agenda?
Madam President,
Ms. Cox?
Dr. Burns, can you provide, or I don't know who would provide, some information on 18.2?
Yes, we serve as basically the accounting arm of some of the schools that are in the area. This is for St. Benedict with Title I funds. So whenever they are purchasing and using the fund from Title I, they have to go through us in order to get those things paid.
We're just their fiscal agent.
The fiscal agent, that's the word I'm looking for, yes.
Nice job, Doctor.
No problem. We've had a couple of these.
We've had a couple.
Yeah, we've had a couple of these.
And with 12.2, this is a new position, or is it a revised job
It
description?
is a new position. We usually have the assistant for that position. We are looking to have this person to do a little bit more. It's almost an entry-level HR position to assist with onboarding, offboarding, many of the areas that we're trying to improve on. So this is a new position. Pay difference is not as drastic as we may anticipate. It's just basically the position title itself and some of the responsibilities.
So it is not an additional position, the other position will merge?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes. This
Can you
will,
clarify
we will
that?
no longer have the assistant position, and it will be the coordinator's position.
Okay.
Mhm.
So,
Assistant what? Could you, Madam President, what, could you clarify what
So
position?
there won't be a human resources assistant anymore.
Mhm.
There will be a human resources coordinator.
Okay. Madam President?
Can you provide some more details on why we're changing the name?
Yeah, yes. Just because we know that there are a lot more responsibilities that are required, and usually an assistant, honestly, an assistant would actually ask to be a coordinator for some of the things that we are going to be asking the assistant to be doing. But it is really, in a lot of different school districts, they will have an HR director to run some of the higher level or the administrative pieces, and some of our entry-level positions were classified, or even just some of those positions will be handled, especially the onboarding or the interviews and so on and so forth, will be handled by the coordinator. So this position is something that we probably should have had with the size of our district. This is something we probably should have had some time ago, especially when we're asking them to have additional responsibilities. So this position is one that will definitely help with the workload that's with our HR director as well. And it'd be a great opportunity for someone who's looking to move up in the HR world.
Mrs. Daniels, did you have an additional question?
Do we currently have a human resource assistant?
We currently do not have a human resource assistant.
So we didn't have one, or that's been a vacancy?
We've had that, but it's currently a vacancy.
Okay. So we're just taking an opportunity to restructure it as
Yes.
we're looking on putting someone in that position?
Yes, ma'am.
So this is not a.
It's not an
new-
additional, no, it's not additional.
We're just filling a vacancy, but just kind of
Changing-
auditing the job
Yes.
title.
Yes, with those responsibilities that we have, we want to make sure that we are creating those opportunities for those folks to learn the responsibility of the HR director, but also not have the same workload on the assistant that we've had in the past. At least we can do is to make sure that the title is appropriate for the responsibility.
Madam President,
Ms. Cox?
can someone provide some details on 17.1?
The approval of policy items? Is that the one you're asking about? Will we have any policy items?
The only thing we had for policy was the approval of the committee meeting minutes. But I put that under section 2. That would be 2.2.
Say that again, Mr. Oka?
So we had the policy committee meeting minutes to be approved by the board. Ms. Thomas requested that be on the agenda, so I put that under the reading and approval of minutes, section 2, so that would be section 2.2. I split it, so you have like the regular board, the board meeting minutes, and then our committee meeting minutes.
Madam President,
Mrs. Daniels?
do we have a committee as a whole meeting on these minutes that we're approving for the policy committee? So what I'm asking is, for us to approve the policy committee meeting minutes, we would have had to attend the meeting in order to approve the minutes. And sometimes we may have a committee of like the whole body come in as in the policy committee and meet on a matter because you may want the whole board's input. But I'm just trying to figure out if I missed something, or if you guys can approve that within your own minutes and just report on it, or what's the purpose?
So the purpose of adding our board committee meeting minutes to our agenda is because there have been some issues within the state with school boards not approving their committee meeting minutes. And we don't want to get caught in the crossfire. So I do understand your concern about voting on meeting minutes that you did not attend. But I can look more into that and give you the reasoning behind it. But we do have to approve our board committee meeting minutes.
Could we maybe have legal look into that for us so we can make sure, cause it's just a chat, like how do you approve
Do
it?
something that we weren't in attendance with. Could, we have legal look at that?
We can definitely have legal look into it.
Cause
Just
I know that in our, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, we've always approved the minutes in the meeting for the people on that committee to approve those minutes. So I agree we need to get some additional guidance. And then how will that look in our regular board meetings? Thank you, Ms. Thomas.
Would you like me to keep that on?
We can remove it. We don't have another policy committee meeting for a little while, so we'll be able to figure it out before next meeting.
Madam President,
Mrs. Daniels?
Ms. Thomas, do you have like a little bit more information where we could find out where, you know, like where that became, was that like in a, one of our OSBA things or something?
I'll find it as soon as we.
Are there any other questions or comments on our tentative agenda for our meeting on Monday? Mr. Oko?
Madam President, 18.1 electric NRG agreement. I'm going to attach the contract It is a 4-year locked agreement. We have recommended to lock in electric prices because it's going to go up significantly moving into the summer. We actually got our price before they adjusted with tariffs on March 4th. So we got our pricing the day before that. So it was a good price locked in. The agreement will be before you for 4 years. So hopefully save us some money over time, because what we've seen is that it's the demand is going up and prices are just gonna rise with it. So just wanna make you aware of that as you vote on it on Monday.
Thank you.
Madam President,
Ms. Cox?
Mr. Ocko, you wanna add the agreement?
Yes, yeah, yeah. I have to scan it in and get it to you guys.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? All right, we'll move on to 4.2, Board of Education training update. Is there anything that anyone would like to share? Okay, we'll go on to 4.3, the district data and financial update. Will that be Dr. Reynolds?
Yes,
Okay.
it'd be both. Just to give an update on where we are, on board report, kind of skimmed across where we were, but just to give you a little more detail, we completed what is referred to as the FC override. And what the FC override was, when I explained to you that there were some students who are in our system that just kept rolling every single year since 99, 90, and since a long time ago. 2019, I'm sorry, since 2019. That's been fixed. We've been able to fix that for about 92 students who've been in our system for several years. We've already been able to fix that. And currently we're addressing missing and excluded students. And what's happening right now is that some of those things that have already been repaired is showing up now. So you've had about, according to my conversation with Mr. Oko, there are about 50 students that just popped up over the weekend since Friday. And that's a reflection of the work that's being done just to make sure that we're identifying where our students are, cleaning this data, and we've been meeting. As a matter of fact, we meet every Monday. We met today. They gave me an update today as well, just kind of highlight exactly where we are. We're doing well right now. There's still a lot of work for us to do. Phil's provided us with some deadlines to help with what he needs to do on the financial side of things. And I've echoed those deadlines to my team as well. And we're pushing hard just to make sure, especially that our data is clean. What that ends up meaning may be in some situations that our numbers may not be where we want them to be, but so far it's actually an up. I'd anticipated that our numbers would go down a bit because we're cleaning some of this data, especially with the removal of those 92 students who've been in our system over and over the last few years. But things are looking better. Things are looking better. They are progressing. And I just want to ensure that what we're reporting to the state is accurate data, or the clean data that we've already referred to. And now we are also correcting data for students who are listed as not attending, but are physically present in our buildings right now. There was another end of this that we were doing. We're sending out information to the buildings and finding and seeing which students are actually in our buildings, and we saw some conflict in that. And those have been adjusted as well. So that's where some of our numbers have probably come up as well. But we're heading in the right direction. And financially, I think I will allow Mr. Oko to speak.
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Reynolds. So I have a question just for the board. Since we're cleaning it and we are reporting significantly lower than where our placeholder was at the beginning of the fiscal year into October, remember, they don't update our payments until the second payment in October. So you have July through October where the state's using the final submissions from last year's in May, June. Now that we've seen our errors, we have that structured timeline in place that Dr. Reynolds and I worked on. The question is, would you want to consider an optional forecast in March to capture that difference in student? It's a material difference. It's about $3.2 million difference between what we had last year with 2,700 funded students and roughly 2,434 now.
Will we have a better idea of that end number in March?
So it's tough. I don't think I can answer that one. All I know is when I got the March #1 payment, which was based on data submitted as of February 25th, we saw 50 special ed students come online. Basically, they were being reported in our funding payment. I don't know, and Dr. Reynolds, I don't know if you even know this at this moment, you know, where with so many years, right, of cumulative cleanup we have to consider here, I don't know what our target number can be. I mean, at this point, what we would do with the forecast is say, this is the actual data we know as of this payment submission for us. Almost to say to the state, look, we are aware of this, we're filing this because they're going to ask us, regardless if we do it now or in May, why are you so far off? Like, where are you at? Because you're telling us you lost 350 students overnight, you know, and that's the question. So I would say it's always better to be safe than sorry, but it's like Dr. Reynolds has been saying, like, we need to own our data. Like, what if we know what our data is, even if we're 300 kids down, but it's our data that we know it, then that's something that we need to navigate as a leadership team from it.
There's one thing that I probably shouldn't use this term, but this is really, I don't want us to be involved in kicking the can down the road. I mean, there's a problem that we recognize right now, and we can push it off into years until the next group comes along. Who's to say that it actually ever happens? So I believe it's our responsibility to go ahead and make sure that we're taking care of the problems that we're identifying and taking care of those things now. And I believe that we're on the road making sure that in years to come that we'll be able to have enough systems in place that this doesn't happen again. That there'll be enough regulations and enough oversight that this doesn't happen down the line. And we're also just trying to look at to see how we can go from where our data is not the most favorable data because it's not clean data to the point where we are leading the way in how we're doing the data. That's where we're moving towards. Just to make sure that we are no longer looking at this thing and that we're setting up the future so that there are these systems that are already in place so we don't ever have to come back down this road again. So that's what our intention and our vision is, to not just fix the data, but also just make sure that it is repaired enough and systems are in place enough that no one else ever has to travel down this road.
I'll also just add, say we filed an initial optional is what it's called now. Say you approved it next Monday at the level of students where we're at now. And when we continue on our framework, we end up reporting a significantly higher number for, say, we're doing this again in May. So we'll be filing another forecast in May. It doesn't hurt, it only really helps. The more transparent you are with the state on this, the better it will work out fully. And it also shows them that we are actively looking at this. And we're not just gonna go the bare minimum and say, look, we're doing November and May, and what the difference is the difference. But again, it's up to your consideration.
I think we would be better served if we did do the optional.
Madam President?
Mrs. Daniels?
I would like for us to move forward with the optional, just because with a possible 3.2 million difference, we do need to have the proper forecast from what we know now as we move forward. We're making financial decisions for the district, just even from March to May.
And I do want to note, in the November forecast, in the assumptions, there was like a long explanation that we were looking at this data issue all the way back in October. It was a matter of figuring out, A, what it was, how we fix it, or is this even an issue? I mean, it could have been something just happened, but, so if the state looks at the forecast, which they do, and looks at our assumptions, then they'll know that we have been on top of this since, that payment flipped over, when we filed in November, which was all the way up to October's data. So I think, again, it shows the steps that we are taking this seriously to Columbus down there, as we look this up.
So
Put it together
we'll
for you.
look forward to
Mhm.
hearing, a revised or optional, 5-year forecast.
It's unfortunate for you guys, you get to listen to me do this twice in almost 2 months' time.
Anything else on, any other questions or comments on 4.3?
Madam President, would that be our presentation for, March 17th? I don't think I've seen a presentation. Is there a presentation?
There should be a data presentation.
Okay.
We'll make an adjustment to decide. I want the data team to come in and provide me with the information that they've been provided. I'd like for them to provide it directly to you.
And we can add under, number 9, add a presentation, 5-year forecast presentation
Yeah.
as,
Can do
a
that.
9.2.
Yep.
All right, we'll move on to 4.4, which is the open enrollment discussion.
Thank you, Madam President. If you have not received the link, I do have hard copies just in case.
Thank you, man.
Yes, sir. Again, thank you, Madam President. As we are looking at our future and the things that we are providing our students, including our AG program, what we're doing with our arts and our STEM focus for the years to come, I'd like an opportunity to somewhat balance some of our efforts of the things that we're trying to do and maintain. This has been our school district is a very transient school district. And what we're trying to do is just to try to stabilize some of the movement that we've seen over the last 3 years since I've been here. And one of the ways of doing that is by doing an open enrollment. However, there's been some school districts who've done an open enrollment in a way that allows X amount of students. And what I am proposing is that we do a limited open enrollment of about 50 students. And with the things that we're trying to provide for the district, that we are looking at students who will be committed to one of our programs on entry. And this is strictly for 9th through 12th grade. We can have a conversation to see if we have room in our middle or elementary schools. But currently we do have space in our 9th through 12th grade. And this will provide an opportunity for students to go directly into the programs that we're providing, again, as the AG program, our arts program, meaning our band, or even our drama program as well, Music Express, and what we're trying to do around STEM or STEAM around the school district. This has been a question or something that I've been considering since the beginning of coming here, because that is a way to stabilize your school district. However, we need to have something for our students or for prospective students to be a part of. And that is where we've been putting our funding and our efforts in what we're trying to do with our arts and what we're doing with our other extracurricular activities as well. And wanted to just make sure that we proposed and had a conversation around this proposal. There are a few areas that I want to ensure that we're highlighting. If you do an open enrollment with no restrictions, you're also possibly opening the door for some issues. So one of the criteria is to make sure that behavior and academic records, that these are students that we're allowing into our school district, are students who are motivated to be a part of what we're trying to do here in our school district. And also just making sure that the building and program capacity. So our AG program is a new program for next year. We're going to allow, obviously, our students to have first dibs. But if there are other students who are interested in, and if we have the space to allow them to enter that AG program, the agricultural science program, we'll give them those opportunities as well. So this is a proposal. I'll give you all an opportunity to kind of look through this information. And if there are any questions, I can take any questions, or we can just kind of hammer out some of the things. Again, this is just a proposal. I've looked and done a little bit of homework of what other school districts have done and what's worked for them as well. And this is really synthesizing that information to create our program for us. Yes, ma'am. Oh, sorry.
Looking at the general guidelines under number 2, transportation, are we able to be a little more specific about the transportation guidelines? Just because we know our high school does not provide transportation, but some high schools do provide transportation. So just wondering if, we can add a word or two that emphasizes or highlights the fact that we don't typically provide transportation for high schools at all.
Yes, I can adjust that. Yes, ma'am.
And then just one more question. When we talk about programs, students will have to be enrolled or participating in a program. Does CVCC count as one of those programs that we would consider?
That isn't one of the programs that initially, but that can, because what we've found is that our students who are participating in some type of program do better. That is actually the best practice to ensure that our students are involved. So CVCC can definitely be a part of that as well. That is not an issue for me at all.
And I know Cuyahoga Heights, they do have open enrollment, and I do believe that their students are able to.
Good, good, good.
Madam President,
Mrs. Daniels?
when we talk about capacity levels or limits, I think we should maybe put up to 50 slots, because we don't know how our general enrollment may shift, because we have an April 1st to June 1st date here, but we can have an influx, we can have issues with staffing, we know where we are at as a district right now, and if we have to make some adjustments, 50 may not be we don't wanna commit to a number per se, or we wanna even have the liberty to say this year we can't, or we already have enough. And when we say up to 50 slots are available, we're just gonna have a solid 50. So if they're filled when somebody else leave, we're not doing 50 each year, to just be these 50 slots. Do these families have to reapply
Yes.
every year?
Yes,
Okay.
they would have to reapply every year, yes.
Madam President,
Ms. Cox?
I have a question about administrative guidelines, number 3. If a student's living in the district and they move out, it says they have to reapply. Do they get any type of preference, or first on the list, or are they part of the lottery like everybody else?
They would more than likely be a part of the lottery at that point. However, we did have something that said that those students who were previously enrolled in the school district as well, they'll actually have first dibs. Is that what you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, they would actually be at the top of the priority list. And again, this is a proposal and is open to making adjustments. We just want to ensure that we provide the opportunity for kids who want to be a part of what we're doing. And honestly, we're doing some amazing things that not a ton of people really know about. And I think we just need to do a much better job in highlighting some of those things. We've started with the state of the schools last week. We're highlighting some of the things that are happening in our buildings. And we have some dynamic things that are happening. We're putting all of those things together as a selling point for what we're trying to do in the future. And the STEAM piece will do that for us. It will kind of package all the things that we're doing and package it in a way that it is obvious that we're heading in a specific direction. And I believe that STEAM will not only just increase engagement, but engagement also increases achievement as well. So the more that we have students who are engaged, more that we have students who are involved, that's where our achievement moves. And I believe that since day one. In every building that I've been a part of, we've moved towards STEAM. STEM at the time, STEAM now includes the arts. And we want to ensure that we're pushing forward with those efforts as well.
Question in terms of just some clarification around students previously enrolled in the district. Is that for students that, for instance, were enrolled in attending one of our schools and went to a St. Benedict's or a Brilliance and come back, as opposed to actually moving out of the district and coming back?
Yes. Now this is basically, those numbers won't count against us. I'll count against the 50 because they're actually in the school district.
Okay,
It wouldn't
got
really
it.
be open enrollment for them. They're just coming back home.
Coming back home.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're just coming back home, so that wouldn't count against our 50. We just want to make sure that the students who are in our city, who are seeing the things, and the parents who are seeing the things that are going on in our school district, we just wanted them to know that they are first priority to come on back into our school district. And once they start really seeing the things that we're doing for children, I believe that we'll have an influx of our students who live here to come back to our buildings.
Thank you.
Madam President, I have a question.
Ms. Morrison?
On a behavioral issue,
Yes.
if we enroll them and then we start to see that their behavior issues or they're delinquent coming to school, will they be asked to leave the district?
That is something I have to see what our flexibility or our
Okay.
flexibility we would have in a situation like that. That would be something that we would definitely discuss.
Okay.
But I don't know that's a conversation I would need to have with Legal One and also with our Pupil Services Department to see how this works in other school districts as well. But that is something that we would definitely consider as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I do like that they have to apply each year, so if it does come to the, down to the fact that we do have a student that exhibits some behavioral issues and we're not able to dismiss them throughout that school year, that they do have to reapply, and that, behavior and behavioral issues, we won't tolerate bringing those individuals back.
Yes, ma'am.
Madam President,
Mrs. Davis?
first, number 3, the students moving out of the district. Do we even need to put this in, because our application is April 1st to June 1st, and we don't make the decision until early July. So with that being said, if a student moved out of the district during the middle of the school year, it really wouldn't apply unless they had an interest along with, it's just like any other person that is part of the open enrollment. So I don't see how that just would even be applicable per se, because of our date time, a student moves out of the district in the middle of the school year, we wouldn't be able to consider them anyway to retain their slot in our district with the open enrollment program, because we don't make those decisions until outside of the school year.
However, that would definitely allow them to still be first priority, just in case.
Okay.
Because I currently have a student who was a part of one of my groups who just left. And his family needed to move, and I want him back, I'm gonna be honest with you. So when I look at that, I think about that student, because he's done so well in the last few months. And And if there's an opportunity to bring him back, even though he's out of the district, and his parent can bring him back to the building, I'd like to open that up for him or any other student who falls into that category. But they would then become top priority for the next school year. So that allows them to become at the top.
And Dr. Reynolds, just with you bringing that up, I would like to say that us taking this first step of open enrollment, but I would like to see us maybe after we see how this goes to even make some of those considerations, because as you stated, one of your reasons for is this to address the transient issue that we have. And if we had families that was able to continue to provide transportation for their students and had to move for whatever reason outside of our district mid-school year, but wanted to maintain their students' enrollment in the district, so, because that would be what's best for the students, if the family can handle it regardless of the grade and or connections to extracurriculars. We just have some students that's not connected to extracurriculars or anything like that, but it's truly an asset to our district. Or we have seniors that have to leave, you know, because of family dynamics right at the end of the school year or mid-school year. And those are some things that I think we should kind of maybe look at to resolve the transient issues that some of our families that really, you know, their students are thriving and just having some issues that's beyond their control, but would like to at least keep their kids stable academically. And I know that's not a part of this
It could be a consideration.
cycle.
It could be a consideration for this, because what we found out even before I entered the school district, what we found out is that students, we moved from here to Bedford to Maple to Warrensville Heights and sometimes back. And I've seen that even in my former school district, that that's some of the situations. And if we had some type of consideration for those families who need to move for whatever reason, but they're doing well here, they're maintaining here, to leave that option open for them. I don't know if we wait until the next cycle of this, or if we go ahead and put this on now. Either way, I'm open to that conversation. Either way.
Yeah, I just think it's you know, could benefit some of our students just to provide that stability,
Mm-hmm.
you know, but it would come with, you know, the understanding that we don't have transportation options. You know, there's an expectation to maintain attendance and all that good stuff. And then one more comment, we talked about discipline. Once we've enrolled a student, they're enrolled. And even if there's some disciplinary issues, we do have to look at it equitably, how we treat all students, because now we have accepted them, they're enrolled. They are a Garfield Heights City School District student, and sometimes things change. We just know that next year you won't meet the eligibility, but, you know, we still have a duty to educate them just like we do any other student that come in that may have disciplinary issues. We have a duty to support them. We have a duty to wrap them. We have a duty to make sure they have supportive services. But I think, and just so we know, all students, you know, may come in, you know, and things happen with students, dynamics, you know, adjusting to the culture of a new school in a district. We may run into some discipline issues that they're students, kids trying to figure it out, but removing them because of that, I think we just need to follow the same rules. Just these are criteria for enrollment, but once the student is enrolled, they are a student just like any other student of the district. We just know that they may not be eligible next year, so I think we just I feel like that's need to be how it is. Once they're enrolled, and we have to serve all students that's enrolled. And if they do something to get them expelled or suspended, just like any of our other students, then those processes are taken, but they just won't be eligible next year. But I don't think And maybe we can ask legal about that too, that we could just kick somebody out because, cause even a kid, I mean, especially kids who have kids that gone to CBCC before, they may think they're interested in the program, and they get here and get into the program and get into the school year, and it's not a good fit. Do we disrupt that student's school year because of that?
And again, that's part of the conversation here. This is open to all the feedback. This is our first go at this, even our first consideration of this. We'll have some things that we'll end up implementing and find out next year, we're gonna have to make some adjustments. But I was having a conversation with someone, if we don't start, then then it won't happen. We won't get it all right on the first go around. We'll find some holes, there's some holes and some adjustments, but we have to start. Especially when we've noticed that this is an issue that we've had for so many years. I've been a part of school districts right here in this area, and it's been a part of every building I've been a part of. Kids are in and out a lot. And how do we maintain those children? How do we stabilize that, not only just for our numbers, but how do we stabilize it for them as well? So that's where this conversation goes. With stabilizing the numbers for us in our school district, but also stabilizing this thing for our students who have the means to get back to the building, even though we may not be able to provide them transportation. If they can get here, we can welcome them back in. So that's where this proposal goes. I want to ensure that I brought it in front of you for consideration and to see if there are some more adjustments, and I appreciate your feedback, and I will make those adjustments. I've been taking a lot of notes here, just to make sure that our first goal is as close to right as we can get it, and then we make adjustments from there.
Are there any other comments or feedback for Dr. Reynolds?
Madam President,
Mrs. Daniels?
do we have to put this through our policy committee at all to reframe our policy? I already know that there's going to be some changes to one of our policies because it says we don't, you have to have residency and all that good stuff. So I know some of our policies will have to make some adjustments to integrate this. But do we have to actually have a policy for this open enrollment, or do we just change some of our language in our current policy regarding registration?
I would think it would need to be a policy.
I believe it is. That is something that I'll make sure we have the details, but I know that there's a resolution to continue or rescind it. Inter-district open enrollment, that was something that we had in place where we were moving from Elmwood to Maple Leaf when we had the same grade levels at all buildings. I know that we had that in place at one point. I think we have to be a little more specific about what we mean by open enrollment now. What we have is inter-district. Now we need to focus on the policy that opens it up for outside of the district. So I'll go ahead and make sure I go back in just to ensure that we are looking at the right policies and see what exactly we need to do in order to do this right.
I think entrance requirement policy will need to be modified to, is that entrance? It's another one. There just needs to be some modifications to just change the language. We got a few. Maybe Neola can help us with just identifying which ones. That's kind of what they do.
We actually have a meeting with Mr. Patterson this Wednesday. Yeah, this Wednesday. We'll be meeting him for some time. We have a half a day meeting with him. So I will definitely make sure we ask that question so that we can see exactly what we need to do in our next steps.
Will there be tuition for our open enrollment students?
No, that is not something I want to. Now, if you as a board determine that that is an area that you want to visit, I wouldn't recommend it. but if that's an area that you'd like to visit.
Do the state pay us enough? I mean, we still get, the money follow the student, they got a backpack now, right?
Yeah. I can get you the actual amount.
I'm just
I would
asking.
say it's not, since we're more state funded, our tuition rate will not be significant. I mean, it'll be maybe $2,000 is all we could. I think the way they calculated it was about $2,600 per student, whereas COG Heights is like $6,000 a student, but they're funded mostly by property taxes. It's really based on what's your state local share. We're 70% state funded, so it's the base cost. So if a student comes in and they're enrolled here, we get the base cost of the student. So the state's still giving us the majority of the payment. Rather, COG Heights needs you to pay the $6,000 because they're not getting their property taxes like that. They're not getting that local share. So we lose out on the local share, but for us, the local share it's only about 2,000 something a student.
You know, I'm
If that
thinking,
makes
but
sense.
I'll call you later, cause
I
I'm just
mean, I
thinking,
can-
you know, like, the
Yeah.
charter schools don't have that issue with open enrollment, correct? Like, the
But-
backpack is a little heavier.
Yeah, but you have to remember, charter schools don't have local share. So charter schools
Okay.
only get the base cost from the state, which is for them. You know, like a student, we get 8,000 something from the state. Total, a student costs $8,000 for us. 70% of that state, the other part, 30 is local. Charter district gets 6,000 of that because they don't get the local part of it.
So the local share doesn't follow, it's not in the
Correct.
backpack.
Yes, the
Okay.
property tax, like charter schools don't collect levies. They don't
Okay.
collect levy property taxes, so they don't get that. Now, again, the tuition rate's completely calculated by the state for us. And I can pull that and send it to you guys, but, you know, charging tuition, to be honest with you, Dr. Reynolds and I haven't really talked about it because that hasn't been a priority for him. Like, I'm not going to Dr. Reynolds and say, we need to charge for these students. Like, that's not what.
What does our, neighboring districts do? Is it tuition free,
It's
other than Cuyahoga?
It's tuition free.
And they're mostly in the same boat as us. So, but I can send you that because I think it is important to see that difference.
I mean, I think with our purpose for this, I would say tuition free aligns with the purpose, is to provide opportunities, you know, for our students. I wouldn't want that to be a barrier if it didn't need to be.
Any other questions or comments in regards to open enrollment?
I'll make some adjustments on the link I shared with you all. I'll make those adjustments tonight. You should see and I'll highlight some of the areas that I'm adjusting as well.
Thank you, Dr. Reynolds. All right, so we have a meeting next Monday. We have pictures, at 5:15. We'll do headshots and a group photo. Bring your sweater for the group photo. And with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn this evening's meeting at 6:58.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
That was moved by Ms. Cox and seconded by Mrs. Daniels. Could I get roll call, please?
Yes, Ms. Cox,
Yes.
Mrs. Daniels,
Yes.
Ms. Morrison,
Yes.
Ms. Thomas,
Yeah.
Ms. King.
Yes. Meeting adjourned.